A busy parking lot became a crime scene this morning after a shooting left a woman dead. According to police, the shooting took place near Pearl Ridge Center in the parking lot this morning. EMS officials say the victim was in her 30s and died from an apparent gunshot wound. Palimomi Medical Center was also placed on lockdown as a safety precaution, but normal operations resumed by 1 p.m. Mall operations were not impacted. Police say the suspect was found dead this afternoon in Waipahu. We are still waiting to learn more about the police investigation. Honolulu Police will have a press conference in a half an hour. We'll have that live on KHON2.com with further updates on our later newscasts.
On December 20th, 2023, a young mother stood inside a Hawaii courtroom and made a final plea for her life. Her voice was calm, but her words, desperate. She told the judge that her husband had grown violent. That he had stalked her. That he threatened to kill her in front of their daughter. The court granted her a temporary restraining order. A simple piece of paper. And then, she walked out. Alone. No police escort. No one to ensure he stayed away. Just 48 hours later, on the morning of December 22nd, that same man would find her. He'd wait for her in the parking lot of a shopping mall. And in front of shoppers, store workers, and her own child, he pulled the trigger. And as her body hit the pavement, a haunting truth became clear. She saw it coming. She begged for help. And no one stopped it. But who was Teresa Kachula, really? What pushed her husband to the brink? And what did the world overlook, until it was too late? To understand the horror of what happened in that parking lot, we have to go back. Back to the life she was trying so hard to rebuild. She called herself, Love, Teresa. On Instagram, she was radiant, smiling in beach photos, posting inspirational quotes, hugging her daughter in soft sunlight. To her 20,000 followers, she was a symbol of hope. A Christian entrepreneur, a mother, a survivor. But behind those filtered moments, Teresa Kachula was living a story most people never saw. Born and raised in Hawaii, Teresa was the kind of person who made you feel seen. Her friends said she listened more than she spoke. That she prayed for strangers, even when no one asked her to. She believed deeply in healing, and she made it her mission to help others find theirs. She ran a boutique called House of Glam Hawaii, a mix of fashion and faith. She used her platform to talk about self-worth, empowerment, and rebuilding after trauma. But even in her most inspiring posts, there were signs. Clues buried between the lines. In one reel, she spoke about starting over after someone breaks you. In another, she said, I stayed silent for too long. I thought it was love. It wasn't. She never named names. She never said who. But people close to her knew she had been trying to leave a toxic marriage for years. She stayed for her daughter. She stayed because she thought things might change. And when they didn't, she stayed silent out of fear. Even her closest friends admitted, they didn't know how bad it had become. Teresa was the strong one. The one who made other people feel safe. But in the weeks before her death, she had started pulling back. Less frequent posts. A kind of nervous energy in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She had recently moved out. She was planning a new life. And according to her mother, she was finally ready to let go of him for good. But someone else couldn't let go of her. It was the Friday before Christmas. December 22nd, 2023. 10:15 a.m. The air was warm at Pearl Ridge Center, a busy shopping mall just west of Honolulu. Teresa had come to meet her mother. She parked outside in the open lot, her 11-year-old daughter beside her in the car. It was supposed to be a quick morning stop. She didn't know he was already there. Witnesses would later say it happened fast. There was no shouting. No warning. Christopher Kachula walked up to her car, raised a gun, and fired. Multiple shots. The sound shattered the air, shoppers screamed, store employees rushed to lock doors. A few ran toward the chaos. Most ran away. Teresa collapsed near her car, her body riddled with bullets. Her daughter, watching, frozen in the front seat. Some say she screamed for help. Others say she didn't make a sound. By the time paramedics arrived, Teresa was gone. Christopher had already fled. But police wouldn't have to look far. A short time later, he was found in another part of the parking lot, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His car was nearby. The murder weapon was recovered at the scene. In one violent morning, a mother was taken from her child. A man had killed the woman he claimed to love. And 2 lives were lost, but one would haunt a community forever. Because this wasn't random. This was the ending of a story Teresa had been trying to prevent for years. And the man who killed her had been breaking long before he ever pulled the trigger. Christopher Kachula wasn't a stranger. He was Teresa's husband. The father of her daughter. A man who once stood beside her in wedding photos, now the reason she was gone. But how did he get here? At first, Christopher seemed like a family man. He was charming, supportive, outwardly calm. But behind closed doors, things were different. Over time, Teresa told friends that he had become possessive. He didn't like her posting too much. He didn't like her spending time away. And he hated that she was growing without him. He began tracking her, showing up unexpectedly, accusing her of things she hadn't done. She tried to leave, but he always found a way back in. According to the temporary restraining order filed just 2 days before the shooting, Teresa told the court that Christopher had threatened her life, threatened to take their daughter, and refused to let her move on. He wasn't just angry. He was unraveling.
What? Cause we know
You ain't got no will.
what?
You ain't got no bottle.
Say what you tell.
Let's just be honest.
Say what you tell.
Let's just be real.
Say one
You ain't got
time.
no cash.
People close to the couple described him as obsessed, manipulative, and increasingly erratic. He reportedly used emotional blackmail, threatening suicide to keep her near. Text messages later revealed repeated patterns of control, jealousy, and veiled threats. Teresa feared what he might do if she ever truly left. But she left anyway. And for Christopher, that was the final fracture. He couldn't control her anymore. He couldn't stand the thought of her starting over, without him. It wasn't a moment of madness. This was premeditated destruction by a man who needed power more than love. And in the end, if he couldn't have her, he would make sure no one else could. Here's the part that makes your stomach drop. Teresa did everything right. She got away. She filed a restraining order. She asked for help. On December 20th, just 2 days before she was murdered, she stood in front of a judge and described the fear that had been living inside her home. She said Christopher had threatened to kill her, had access to a gun, and was becoming more dangerous by the day. The court approved the temporary restraining order. But that was all. There was no arrest. No firearm was taken. No protection offered beyond a stack of paper. There was no system in place to make sure he wouldn't come near her again. There was no one watching. She begged for protection. And it was too late before anyone noticed she wasn't safe. Worse, this wasn't a secret. Teresa had already told friends, family, even followers that she was scared. In private messages, she said she was being harassed, monitored, and that something terrible was going to happen. No one thought it would be like this. But Teresa did. She saw it coming. And still, he got to her first. That's the twist. The monster wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was a husband. A father. A familiar face. Smiling in photos, even as everything inside him was beginning to rot. Teresa's daughter survived. But nothing about her life will ever be the same. She saw everything. She saw her mother's last breath. She saw the man who took it. Today, she lives with family. Her name has been kept out of the public eye, for protection, for healing. But the trauma lingers. And always will. The community mourned. Candlelight vigils were held across Hawaii. Friends posted videos of Teresa laughing, dancing, singing in church, as if trying to pull her back from what happened. Her boutique's Instagram page became a digital memorial. Followers flooded the comments with heartbreak, confusion, and guilt. Many of them had followed her for years. And now they were left asking, did we miss the signs? How could someone so full of life vanish like that? But some questions were bigger. Why wasn't the restraining order enforced? Why wasn't Christopher disarmed? Why did she have to stand alone in court while her abuser walked free? Hawaii's domestic violence system came under scrutiny. Advocates began calling for emergency firearm removal laws, better TRO enforcement, and real-time protection for at-risk women. Because Teresa isn't alone. Each year, thousands of victims file for restraining orders across the U.S., believing that a court order is enough. And every year, too many of them end up dead anyway. Christopher Kachula didn't just kill a woman. He destroyed a child's world. He exposed the cracks in a system meant to save lives. And he left behind one final, unbearable truth. Teresa knew he would kill her. She said it. She wrote it. She filed it in court. And still, no one stopped him. As the screen fades to black, the question remains. How many others are still smiling on social media? While silently waiting to be heard?